Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to go over a Tyranid list, not mine, somebody else's in the community who went 5-0 at a GT with the Tyranids. We're going to dive in. I don't know all of the details to every round, but I've got the enemies that he played. I know what missions he played. It only matters for one game, really, that we talk about it. But just some details. I just want to take a little bit of time here to discuss the list and see what he's got cooking up on for the Tyranids. So if that all sounds good, do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. If you want to help support the channel just a little bit more, members, thank you. You can become a member. Check the description down below. We also have an Etsy shop and an Element Games link if you are in the UK area. Thank you to those who use those links. Now with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. Alright, so we have a tournament here. This was the Salty Classic GT. My Battlescribe? Not Battlescribe. My Best Coast Pairings app was being a bit buggy when I was trying to get more details on this. So there's a few things that I don't know exactly. The first one is how many players there were. It was a 5-round event and only one person ended up undefeated. So I'm assuming it was roughly in the area of 50 players. Could have been a little bit more, could have been a little bit less, but that's my assumption going into this. I did find that they were using the US Open terrain, which as you can see on the screen is the 4 big bricks of line of sight blocking terrain and then some other line of sight blocking terrain around. I personally am not a fan of this terrain, and I'm glad our local area doesn't use it. But there it is, just so you have a little bit of context going into it. What you guys are all here for is the list. This was done by Mark Parker. Maybe we're distant related, I don't know. Running High Fleet Leviathan, and this list is quite interesting as we get into it. So first off, congratulations, Mark. I'll probably say it later, but going 5-0 with the Tyranids. We all love to see it. I knew Tyranids could still do it, but it's glad to see that someone else or someone is proving that they can. So the list. High Fleet Leviathan, like I said, they are running the adaptive trait for the reroll a hit roll every time a model shoots, fights, whatever. HQs, 2-foot tyrants. One of them has the Shard Gullet, and one of them has the Balethorn Cannon. So that is the relic Heavy Venom Cannon and Stranglethorn Cannon. If you aren't familiar with the Balethorn, I know it's not nearly as taken nearly as often, but that's what it is. Still a good gun. Troop choices, 1 of each. He's got 10 Gargoyles, 10 Hormagaunts, 10 Termagants. They all do, they all probably in this list serve the same purpose, but each have a slightly different way about doing it. So, you know, they're there. Elites, 3 Zoanthropes. Still, Zoanthropes, especially in Leviathan, are very good because you can use that Synaptic Imperative Psychic Power, Hive Nexus, to give the Zoanthrope Imperative to a core unit every single turn. So you'll see what he's got, he's probably given it to. Heavy support, other in the elites is 5 Tyrant Guard. 1 big block, he probably puts the 2 Tyrants right next to each other, walks them up the middle of the board or something like that. And then he's got 4 Carnifexes in the heavy support, each of them with enhanced stances, heavy venom cannons, and then talons. I believe one of them technically had chitin thorns, give him an extra AP, but that is just probably had 5 points to fill up or something, so that's why he did it. In the flyers, he's got 2 Harpies with Stranglethorn cannons. One of them has got Synaptic Enhancement. So this list is basically a pre-nerf Tyranid list. And he said, fine, I'm going to just run the same thing and it's going to do just as well. And it's doing just as well. I'm guessing a previous list he maybe had was something similar to this. And he just dropped out a Neurothrope. And, you know, that he can do. Some other notes with the army is that he starts with 0 CP, which I personally hate starting with 0. I always like to have at least 1, if not 2 to start, just so I have options with stratagems. But I guess maybe with his list, he doesn't really need the CP a whole lot to do any of his shenanigans, because it is just line up and shoot. The list says, and maybe I'll put it in the description down below, it says he has 1 CP, but I believe this list was updated before Battlescribe fixed the heroic support bug. So, or yeah, bug, Tyranids bug. The bug with heroic support not showing up. So it says 1 CP, but I hope he played it with 0 CP to start, accounting for heroic support. But yeah, this list is really, I'm going to line up my big bugs and I'm going to shoot you to death. And then if you come close, I'll chop you up. He has got the 2 relic big guns, 4 venom cannons, and then technically 4 stranglethorn cannons on the 2 harpies. So that's the list. And now I'll just go into a little bit more detail of how I think it plays. Again, I haven't talked to him. I don't know how he plays. All I'm going is, okay, this is my list. How would I play this on the battlefield? So like I said, I put my Hive Tyrants towards the center, maybe leaning towards one flank that's important or another, and then Tyrant Guard to join them. Harpies, obviously, they have to fly on to support where needed. Probably splits the Carnifexes on the flanks, puts 2 on one, 2 on the other. Maybe he loads one flank heavy. Maybe he goes for that. Troop choices, there is Action Monkey, so he probably keeps Termagants in the back line. Gargoyles can fly up and do an action early, and the Hormagaunts are there to zip onto an objective, go 16 inches, 1 turn, maybe late game if he needs to steal something. Hormagaunts are great at doing that at the end of the game. Maybe, that's my thoughts. Secondaries, doesn't have a lot of options with this list. Obviously, he's probably trying Warp Ritual with those Tyrants sitting right in the middle of the board. I'm guessing he's trying to play banners on a lot of them. Just to, if he can put up 2 banners on turn 1 and then hold those, that's 10 points throughout the game. That's not bad. If he gets any other banners throughout the game, those are just bonus points on top. So probably not the worst there. He's definitely taking a killy one, especially if they have something like Bring It Down, because he's got a lot of anti-tank, a lot of anti-infantry shooting too. Not as much, but still a lot. So no prisoners or Bring It Down is probably one of his options. I could even see him taking Grind. Now, I think Grind is a bit of a rough secondary, but I still think in certain matchups, if your list is built the way his is, where he doesn't have a ton of units, Grind might be a decent option. So maybe he does. Again, I don't know. I don't know what he took. I see that and I say, okay, this is maybe what I try. If you're watching this, Mark, welcome. Hi, thank you. Put a little comment down below. I'm curious to get some more insight on this. I think this list is very much how I used to play my Kraken, that is a kill your opponent first, score your secondaries later type of army. It's just, Tyranids do so well at that. Our secondaries aren't great, so if you don't tailor towards them, you focus on pure damage to begin with. So that's my thoughts on the list. Now I do have some basic information on his opponent. Again, Best Coast Pairings was being a bit buggy for me, so I couldn't get everything. He played in his 5 rounds. I have the matchups, and I could only load some of the opponent's lists. I don't know why. So I'll go through my thoughts on them. First off, Orcs list, I could not load it. Don't know why. He won. He kicked his butt. It seems like I'm guessing it was pretty average Orcs list, but again, I don't know, so sorry, I can't give that great of detail. Round 2, this list I could load. He had a lot of stealth suits in the list against Tau, I should say, against Tau. He had a lot of stealth suits. I believe it was 3 groups of 3. And I haven't played against Tau much, but I know a few people who play Tau, and they don't. I asked them, and bringing them is not that great. They wouldn't bring them. Maybe 1 unit is okay with them, but 3 units of 3, maybe not the best. But that's all I know about the list. Otherwise, it was pretty standard battle suits, some Fire Wars, things like that. So interesting there. I mean, those things, heavy venom cannons or stranglethorn cannons tear those things apart. So for the Astra Militarum game, I noticed that the opponent was not bringing Born Soldiers, which, if you ask me, is by far and above the best regiment to play, or doctrine, whatever, to play guard with, because it's just so much damage amplification. And to be fair, this Tyranid list is so good at killing guard. You've got really durable monsters, so they can try and weather the anti-tank fire, who have really good anti-tank fire in return to kill all those tanks. He also has Harpies, which are very good at killing large blobs of guardsmen. He could probably go through, fly on his Harpies, and each individual Stranglethorn cannon could target a different squad and probably kill 2/3 of that squad each cannon. So you're talking, Harpies fly on turn 2, 4 infantry squads basically reduced to nothing, and then with all of that heavy venom cannon squads, or heavy venom cannons in general, probably drop a couple tanks in a turn. So I'm sure he played pretty passive in his turn 1. Turn 2, with the Harpies coming on, just obliterated his opponent there. So yeah, great game there. Round 4, this is an interesting one. Again, I said I had the information on the matchups. Round 4 was Abandoned Sanctuaries against World Eaters, and World Eaters had the Lord Invocatus, or the Avocado Lord as people are calling him, and his whole thing is pre-game move. I have played against World Eaters. You will see game against World Eaters soon. Maybe not with Lord Avocado. But that pre-game move, getting a free move up the board, and then if they go first, they get to sail up the board again, on top of getting +2 to all of that movement, guarantees 2 units can get turn 1 charges. No problem about it. Abandoned Sanctuaries is no pre-game move into no man's land. So at best, the opponent, the World Eater player, probably shuffled some of his left flank to his right flank, or his right flank to his left flank. But interesting, and I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Mark, but he probably was like, thank God, as soon as he saw that little lineup happen. Was a difference maker. Again, I don't know. I know World Eaters are scary, especially if he wasn't bringing Angron, because this list would have torn Angron apart with all the high damage shots. But that's what it is. So he kicked his butt. And finally, Iron Hands list. And I know Iron Hands love to bring Relic Contemptor Dreadnoughts, which suck against Carnifexes. They are low strength, low AP, damage 2, and they do mortal. So they're fine, but Carnifexes will get a decent armor save against it. They reduce the damage on it to 1, and yeah, that's it. And low strength, so they're not wounding him like on 3s all the time or whatever. So that's it. I remember checking at the list, there were no multi-meltas in the list, which are really good at killing Carnifexes. I see no reason why this list probably didn't tear it apart. Again, I'm not trying to take away from Mark's performance. I'm just trying to point out what I can about the enemy list. It probably was a great matchup for him, bringing heavy weapons on heavy weapons, and his heavy weapons were better prepared to kill the Iron Hands heavy weapons. So great for taking down one of the boogeyman armies of this edition, or of this season so far. Glad to see Tyranids can still do it if the matchup is right and the player controlling the Tyranids is good. Obviously, he's got to be a good player. In a bit of a conclusion, I think obviously we can prove Tyranids still have play. It seems like a lot of the armies in 40k are coming into this place where they are good. They are not auto-win. Again, some armies can, but not nearly as many armies as auto-win. It really depends on matchup and player skill, which is what it should be. Maybe not so much matchup, but it really should be a player skill thing of not just, oh, I brought Tyranids, so I am going to lose to this army, or I brought Tyranids, so I'm going to win against this army. If you play Tyranids in 5th edition, you know playing against Dark Eldar and Grey Knights, that sucked. But that's a rant for another time. It is a place where Mark showed up with his Tyranids, and he was a better player and knew how to outperform his opponent. Dice games beat dice games, so there's some swing and sway with that, but that's the way it should be. Obviously, that's not saying Tyranids are top dog by showing this, but it shows that they have a place in it. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but it's just interesting to see he's bringing the list that is like, this is what you would have brought, 3 months ago to a tournament, and he's just bringing the same thing. Maybe he's got a few less points, one less threat in it. He doesn't care. He's just bringing the same thing. Maybe Leviathan still is one of the best hive fleets. I know a lot of us have switched to Gorgon, Behemoth, and Kronos, but maybe Leviathan still is one of the best ones. Unfortunately for Kraken and Hydra, not the same, but it's something. Are we seeing a shift where the Venom Cannon, the heavy Venom Cannon specifically, is still one of the best anti-tank guns in the game? And a Carnifex is a pretty cheap, durable platform. Combine those two together, even with the points nerfs, they still keep working. And maybe that is. Tack on the Leviathan rerolls for a hit roll, it just makes them all that much more consistent. Because on average, Carnifexes hit on 3s. On average, you get 2 hits and you roll a miss. 50% of the time you miss, you're gonna, you re-roll that and then you're going to get another hit, potentially. 60% of the time or whatever it is. So 66. So Leviathan rerolls with Carnifexes really just make them that much more consistent and really brings the hurt down your opponent. And on top of that, if the ranged heavy Venom Cannons can kill the high toughness, high armor value, whatever enemies, the Carnifexes in melee then shouldn't have to deal with anything too terrifying, and they will walk in with, 6 attacks at strength 6 and AP 3, damage 3, but still, that is enough to deal with a lot of opponents in melee. So maybe it is. The heavy Venom Cannon Carnifex is right now the king of the Tyranids. We'll have to see how things shake up. I will be trying these. I admit, I have never used a heavy Venom Cannon Carnifex yet in 9th edition. I love Screamer Killers. I think Screamer Killers are still good. I think there's so many other options out there that I just didn't get to them. And I'm going to try them out. I'm going to see how they work. And I'm sure they're going to do well. So that is everything I've got. Congratulations again, Mark, on your tournament sweep of 5-0 with the Tyranids. It's really interesting to see what list you brought and it performed. Unfortunately, you couldn't have the full insight into everything going through. Hopefully, I kind of read your mind a little bit and saw how it was being played. But again, it's just another list from another Tyranid mind showing how it can perform. And that's great to see. So again, congratulations, Mark. Thank you all of you for watching. I'll try and put that list down in the description below. If I don't, just spam the comments. I'll make sure I put it in there. And yeah, check out those links. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.